Hey, everybody, welcome into Bayou Time. Harry McCullough here. You know, it's that time of year again. It's the Tarpon Rodeo. Well, it's hurricane season, but just forget about that. It's Tarpon Rodeo time. That'll be going on July 28th through the 30th down in Grand Isle, which is, again, one of my favorite places on earth and one of the toughest places to do anything recently as after last year's storm. So hopefully we won't have to deal with that. Here to talk about the Grand Isle Rodeo and what's going on with the recovery down there is Jefferson Parish President Cynthia Lee Sheng. Cynthia, a big fan of your father's for many years, and now watching your career, I don't know you that well, but I'm proud of you to take the head of the parish government there. Grand Isle, you're getting ready for recovery and a big tarpon rodeo. So, what are you feeling this year as we get ready for another big event down on the island?
This is such an honor for me, and you bring up my father. So I'm very fortunate to be the president of the Grand Isle Rodeo this year, and it's history in two ways. You bring up my father. He was the president of the rodeo in 1984, and he loved the rodeo. I've been there since I was a kid. When my kids were children, they went there, and so this rodeo just means family to me. It's an annual event, and people who go tend to go every year. We have good friends down there. So the fact that he was the rodeo president, I'm the rodeo president this year, we're making history this year. They joked and they said the guys finally got together and decided to make a woman president. It really is an honor for me to be the president this year, the first female president, but more importantly, that I got to see the island just after the storm, and I was able to have the fear of that storm hitting the island. Mayor Carmodel was one of the last phone calls that I had as the storm approached, and then we lost contact with them and we lost our radio contact with them. So while we were hunkering down at our emergency operations center, our hearts were with the people on Grand Isle, because I knew there were about 40 people that were still stuck on that island. And when you see the storm hitting like that, you're just hoping that they survive. So yeah, I just have a lot of closeness to that island. And so the fact that we're able to put on the rodeo, because honestly, when I saw the devastation of the island just the days after the storm, you wouldn't have believed that we could have pulled this off and had this rodeo. And they had, they've been programming the island. They had a concert, last weekend or 2 weekends ago that was really crowded. It just speaks to the amount of teams, not just public teams, but Entergy. So many teams that came in, debris cleanup, sand removal, and worked so hard for so long to get this island ready for this. So it is, I wouldn't have it in any other year. This has a special meaning to me to be the president this year.
Yeah, and down at the end of the island, the new Grand Isle Marina down there, and a lot of things are built up, and it looks nice. The gas pumps are awesome, and the pavilion obviously is good. Obviously from Terrebonne and Lafourche Parish, we all think of Grand Isle kind of the extension of the bayou, but it's Jefferson Parish. So what does Grand Isle mean to Jefferson Parish, and going back for historic times for that island in Jefferson Parish?
For Jefferson Parish, we're proud to say that we're the most diverse people in the state in terms of our racial background. But when I also say we're very diverse in our geography, in Jefferson Parish, you can have high urban areas, high residential areas. We have a business core, we have an industrial sector, and then the Grand Isle, Lafitte, Crown Point, Barataria areas, those areas are our fishing and the people that the culture of fishing and people who live and work near the water and live near nature and all the animals and all the wildlife that we get. So Grand Isle helps make Jefferson Parish unique. It is going to be a tourist destination for us. It already is, but unfortunately, Grand Isle, we had so much destruction on that island that we have really had to rebuild from the start on many things. I mean, the water line, we were barging in water because there was no water line. I mean, we had to completely rebuild that water line. So many of the houses were destroyed. So have a lot of new features. And I think, we really have an opportunity to bring in new tourism with so many new features and new units down there. It's going to be a real, like, as they say, gem in the crown for us in Jefferson Parish.
Yeah, it really is. And like I said, I mean, going back to the Awakening, I don't know if you ever read the Awakening book, and Edna Pelletier, and they were talking about the old days from New Orleans where the rich people kind of summered in Grand Isle. They'd boat down there and stay there. It's always been a big part of the New Orleans area and Jefferson Parish as well.
I have a great picture of that, and it just is like from another time. And I feel like the women were wearing long dresses and they were on the beach, and it,
Right.
it just is like storybook looking,
Yeah.
like it really is. I mean, you just look at the picture and it takes you back to those times. So
Right. No, they
yes,
would
that's
stay there
Grand
for
Isle.
months. Yeah. While the guys were
Yes.
working. So yeah, it's a pretty cool book if you ever read it. It's about a coming of age story. But anyway, let's talk about
I
coming of
have to read
age.
it now. I have to
Yeah.
read
Yeah.
it.
It's called The Awakening. I had to do it back in school. Hey,
Mhm.
so look, this is a special time, and I'm sure you want to shine. Using a New Orleans term, ain't there no more. When I went for the 4th of July, there was a lot of places that ain't there anymore. So is it ready to host an event? And like I say, I know they had the big concert last weekend, and we had big 4th of July, but everybody's ready to go for the
We're ready to
rodeo.
go. I mean, obviously the housing isn't as plentiful as it was, but there is places that are being booked up. We're ready to go, and we're ready to put on this rodeo. The crab races for the children. We're going to have cornhole, music, crafts. All the booths are there. We're going to host this rodeo, and not just have fun, but say we're back. We're not going anywhere. We can deal with Mother Nature, and we're strong people, and we're Louisianians, and this is how we live, and nothing's going to stop this way of life. We might get deterred in the short term, but we're going to move on. And it's kind of like, the Mardi Gras after Katrina, just like it was important. And that's how I feel about this
Yeah, it's
rodeo.
called a rodeo, but this ain't our first rodeo, right? And we sure ready for it.
Right.
So this is an awesome time of the year. So what does it mean for you to be part of the rodeo like you were? And like I said, your father, Harry Lee, for Sheriff Harry Lee, for people that don't know, he was the head of the rodeo, and now you're the head of the first. I'm amazed it's the first female to ever do that.
Yes, we believe the rodeo started in 1928. They might have had some before, but we're going to officially say it was 1928. And we're making history because I'm the first female president of the rodeo. I was the admiral of the fleet last year, and then it's my turn to be the
Right.
president. So it's a history making tournament rodeo that we're having.
Yeah, that's so cool. So, are you going to get to fish? You said you didn't fish a whole lot when you were a kid, but are you going to get to fish this time?
I might get to fish. I might.
At
I
least
have
weigh some
duties on,
in.
under the tent. But look, my dad, did you bring up my dad? My dad was the president in 1984. And so he's with me, I lost my dad years ago, but because he would bring me as a child, he is with me in this tournament. This is family based for me. I'm visiting old family friends there with the Candies family. So it's looking toward the future in this tournament. We're making history, but for me, it is very much historical with my family, and kind of like going to an old house where you just kind of relive your childhood. It's going to be like that for me.
For sure. So you've been obviously talking with the organizers and getting everybody that's putting us together. How's the feeling this year after? Again, we talked about this ain't the first rodeo. Obviously, it ain't first fishing rodeo, but we've been through so many storms down here. Does it feel like a different vibe because Ida took such a big hit on it last year?
It completely feels like a different vibe. There has been so much work that's gone on the island to make this possible. I mean, if you saw, it's strange the way the storm hit. With Grand Isle, it just got covered with sand, and it was a very dry look, dry sand everywhere. If you look in further upper Jefferson, it was mud. It was wet, it was muddy, it was brown, dirty. So it was a different look. But the teams that have spent so much time removing debris, removing sand, rebuilding a complete water line, and Entergy as well. Like this is they're testing out, and they're not testing; they're installed already. The strongest poles, and it's sort of what they're looking at for the Gulf South that they're trying here in Grand Isle. They put a sleeve down into the ground, deeper into the ground. They filled it with rocks, and it's a stronger category of poles. And that's the first thing when you go to Grand Isle. That's visually different because if you went right after the storm, the poles were all mangled and just twisted up and folded up, and now you see straight lines of poles on each side of the road. So that's the first visual you'll notice different if you saw the island just after Ida, and if you go to the island this weekend. So a lot of things going on. It absolutely feels different. It feels like an accomplishment that when you look back, at the end of August, September, when Ida hit all of us, that we could actually be hosting this Tarpon Rodeo tournament. it is a huge success, and we're very, very excited about it.
Right. No, I know. And, we always go, yeah, we had Ida, but before that, we had 2 years of COVID. And, just it's been a weird 3 years for sure for everybody. Jefferson Parish is no exception. So, how the rest of the infrastructure from Jefferson Parish, you got, took a lot of water, all the way up, all the way all through Kenner and everywhere else. So, how's Jefferson Parish doing after 2 years of quarantine and a storm?
Look, I think the history books will say that, we have really lived through a very, very tough 2.5 years. And I think all of us in our family life, and certainly with the public events, we look at gatherings different. We're all probably, going out now, gathering with one another. COVID is still there, but, the cases are mild. Generally speaking, the cases are mild. We have a new appreciation of things because we've been through so much, and we've been through more than, the rest of the country, because we were in a surge when Ida hit. So we have really had our share of tough times, but I think we can show the rest of the country how strong we are and how much grit we have as Louisiana people. And this rodeo kind of represents that. It's going to be that kind of weekend to say we live our life. We fish, and we have great music, and we have great friendships, and we have been through a lot, but it has only strengthened our resolve.
Right. No, I could feel that, yeah, when I was down there for the 4th of July, it was like, yeah, heck yeah, we're doing this. And everybody was having a good time. I also noticed a bunch of rocks ringing at. I know that's David Cormerdale's favorite pastime is talking about rocks, but looks like we're getting some more rocks towards the west side of the island too. So the infrastructure seems like y'all getting a little help with that.
Yeah, if you see our mayor, he'll say it just like that. He's not a sandman, he's a rock man. And he is very determined to bring that island back. And he really is, the spirit that he has for the people, and the fight that he does to get resources and to make sure everybody knows how critical this is for us. We're important to the rest of the country. And look, people want to say, well, move away from there, but don't, this storm hit us and brought us down, and then it went up to New Jersey and it killed 40 more people. So right. This is just not, these weather issues and these weather events, they're all of our problem, not just those of us in the Gulf South states. So I think that's important to understand. We're dealing with a lot. I know we're all dealing across the parishes with flood insurance, and right. People still having problems with insurance. Some people more recently getting dropped from insurance, a lot of insurance issues. But we can lead the state in those fights in DC because we've had to live through it. So we can speak well about it and speak from a place of experience.
For sure. Well, Cynthia Lee Sheng, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it. Look, and if I see you down there, I'm going to come say hello to you.
Absolutely.
But I certainly appreciate you being with us tonight on Bayou Time.
I'd love to meet you in person. So I'll see you under the tent.
Okay. We'll talk to you later.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Cynthia Lee Sheng. We'll be right back with more Bayou Time after this.